Welcome to the Real Business Lifetime Lessons podcast, where Carolina business leaders get real about growth, grit, and leadership. I'm Josh Busby, your All-American agent with Lifetime Insurance Agency, and this is White Coat Conversations, in-depth discussions with healthcare and wellness leaders who are making an impact across Carolinas. My guest today is Kervin Searles, the CEO of Gravity Counseling Group. Kervin is a licensed psychotherapist, speaker, podcaster, and now author. For over 20 years, he's been helping children, adults, and families navigate some of the life's toughest challenges. He's passionate about men's wellness, preventative programs for families, and mentoring the next generation of counselors. At his core, he's a community leader driven by faith, purpose, and the belief that when we learn how to love, we will know how to live. Kervin, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on today's episode with me. Very excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, let's dive into some mental health. You've described yourself first as a husband and a father. How has family shaped the way you approach your work and your business?
So family is extremely important to me. I come from a very close-knit family. So as far as it's shaping the way that I approach work and business, I always try to step back from time to time, not get so engulfed in business, and make sure that I am making quality time for my wife, my kids, making sure that we're also engaging in memories, memorable events outside of me just focusing so much on trying to hit the next plateau or the next goal, whether it be getting more clients, different milestones, like I'm trying to get to certain financial levels, but just making sure that I step away and take some time to myself and being with my family. When I say to myself, being with my family is me taking time to myself. I really and truly enjoy being with them, hanging out with them, seeing them grow and become smarter, better, greater, hopefully, than I am.
Absolutely. I lost my father a few years ago, and the majority of his life, he took that approach of focusing more on work than family. And it suffered in a lot of ways, not only for me, but for him, because I knew he had regrets and also the family that he was with at the time. And so I learned not only that that's not how I want to treat my children, but you can easily take for granted the work that you're doing versus being there for your family as well and finding that happy balance and learning how to compartmentalize. And your family's all you got at the end of the day. Job and the career is just a job. So I could say all day that I have all these feelings towards how my father was when he decided to do what he did rather than focus on family. But if anything, it taught me about what type of man and what type of father I should be and I want to be in the future for my future family.
Yeah, exactly.
You had the version for Gravity Counseling back in 2012, but didn't launch it until years later. What was the turning point that pushed you to finally bringing it to life?
Going back to family, it's important for me not only to create memories, but it's important for me to lead. And one of the things that I wanted to lead in was establishing the thought that ownership is important. I had a vision on paper to own my own counseling group because I did not have a clear or a set mentor who had done it before. It was just on paper. And I started gathering a little notes here and there. For me, the podcast world has been great because once the podcast world kind of blew up, you can go to various podcasts and learn a lot of different information. So as I gathered this information, it allowed for me to say, okay, now is the time. Now is the time to make that move. And even though I had it on paper in 2012 and in the fall of 2019, that was the actual turning point where I went in and got the office space that I'm currently in right now.
That's incredible.
To start, yes. So just gathering information and then just deciding. It was more to it than that. Deciding that, you know what, now is the time, and finding the office space, and then renting it out.
It pretty much gets to that point where it's now or never. I'm sure your family had a big impact on pushing you to finally make the dream a reality as well. You know, around the time was COVID, a lot of people were getting into that, the online social media influencers and starting podcasts. Did you pick up mentors along the way as far as when you opened up your business?
So I have picked up mentors from the counseling side of it, learning theories, learning interventions, learning how to be a therapist. From the business side, I have not picked up any mentors. I'm still currently looking for somebody to kind of give me a little bit more guidance. So a lot of the things that I'm learning on my own, figuring out on my
Mhm.
own, of course, with the research that I do. But as
Yeah,
far
of
as having
course.
a person that I can call and go to, as of right now, no, I don't have.
I got you. Either way, without a mentor, it's incredible what you've been able to accomplish on your own through, like you said, extensive research. I'm sure trial and error, and learning as you go along the way. Everybody you can benefit from a mentor, maybe like a business coach, may be a good idea. My boss, Aubrey, she's had her own agency now for the last 10 years, and I'm more than happy to put you in contact with her as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. You've worn many hats, starting from caseworker to UPS supervisor, counselor, podcaster, now author. Looking back, what threads tie all those roles together?
Question. Really good question. What roles ties those together? I would say people, knowing, understanding we all come from different backgrounds, and the different backgrounds that we come from, they influence us to who we are in present day. So if you talked about your dad kind of putting a lot of focus on work, whether there's some bad things that can come with that, but there's some good things as well. That instilled in you a certain work ethic that may not be in another person who didn't have a similar experience. So just looking back, trying to gather people's past experiences and connecting it to their current behavior allows me to understand them a little bit better. So that's probably the come and go, no matter whether I'm a caseworker or a supervisor, counselor, even podcaster. You know, the beautiful thing about podcasting, as you know, right now, me and you are talking. You're gathering information about my life that I might say something that's going to resonate with you for the remainder of your life.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we're having an experience right here, right now, in this moment, that you may take something from this conversation and be able to carry it for the rest of your life. Podcasting is pretty neat. It's a lot of podcasters out there. Some people would say it's saturated, very saturated right now, but it's still fun. It's still fun to do.
yeah, absolutely. And not only resonated with me. We talked about in the past the reason why I decided to do this podcast series on our agency's podcast is to resonate with the listeners as well. So hopefully it gives you an opportunity to tell your message. It gives me an opportunity to tell my message. We get more information about mental health and just talk about it. It always has a special place in my heart. And so the ultimate goal is for everybody to resonate in some way. What's been the biggest learning curve in balancing being both a psychotherapist and the CEO of a growing practice?
The psychotherapy part is easy for me. It's what I studied in school. It's me implementing the counseling theories that I learned out throughout the years. It's me learning interventions and giving them to people to put into their everyday lives, helping them to find coping skills, identifying a diagnosis if need be when they come into the office. That part is easy.
Mhm.
And the part again that is a little bit more, or has been more difficult in the past, is learning the financial part. I had a mentor on the psychology side who said a lot of times what you find is a person is either a really great therapist or a really great business person. Rarely do you
Right.
see them in the individual. The learning curve for me has been trying to grow as a businessman, not allowing my empathy to get the best of me, to set a price and stay at that price, to know my worth based on the educational, not just the educational level of graduate degree, but we have continuing education that we have to do every year. And I'm very intentional about the continuing education I have, that I obtain. I don't just try to get just the generic continuing education. I want to get something that's going to benefit me, but not only benefit me, but benefit the clients, to be able to bring more people in. Clients want certain stuff. And if they're wanting it, whether I'm interested in it or not per se, I need to have a reason for either not having it when they are requesting it, or I need to look into it and gain that particular skill that they're asking for. So understanding my clientele, the price point for that clientele, and so on and so forth.
I can resonate. It compares to what I do as an insurance agent. We are constantly doing continuing education. We're required to do continuing education every year. We always get updates and product changes. So not only do we have to stay updated on all the changes and laws, but I personally want to gain that knowledge because one thing I love doing is educating my clients and potential clients. And even if I don't do business with somebody, I want to make sure that they are educated. Health insurance, it can be a complex thing, but once you get everything explained and broken down to you, it makes a lot more sense. And people are more grateful for that more than anything. You've turned gravity counseling into a teaching practice for new counselors. Why was mentorship such an important next step for you?
I kind of go over this in the book that I recently finished. The heart of me has always been kind of a teacher, a mentor of some sort. Just one of those things that I would like to say, was placed on me by God. And I've just always found myself teaching or sharing what I have been taught. It's not that I'm such a grand person or that I'm just so wise. What I'd spent a lot of time doing growing up was just observing, watching, and listening to those older than me and even those younger than me. And whenever I learned something, I did not try to gatekeep. I always want to give that information out. Now, as far as counseling is concerned, I've just taken that desire to give that information out. I see people who've graduated after me. They're somewhat frantic. Sometimes they have a lot of anxiety about getting into the field. And whenever I have a chance, I try to share whatever information that I've obtained down through the years with them. And I also see where there are opportunities for us to do more within this field. Those who have been there already, for us to
Yeah.
do more, to be more intentional about mentoring, to be more intentional about sharing with the younger generation. There are people who are coming out of school, getting a job, and they have no clue. Okay, what do I say in sessions? What notes are you wanting from me? What do I actually need to write? How does insurance bill or pay you? How do you bill insurance and how do insurances pay you? Or why is it that I make X amount when other people with similar educational background making more money? Just being able to explain how all of these things come together and work together to see what to get to where we are right now. I really enjoy sharing that information. Probably my ideal, if I wasn't doing this, if I wasn't counseling one-on-one or giving presentations and speaking engagements, my ideal job probably would be to be a professor.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
So I love sharing information about mental health. I love sharing information about how it works, not just in a one-on-one setting, but for counselors and for everybody involved within the industry. So it was just a natural progression for me to begin to learn it and then share what I know with others.
Right. And I know that everybody's different, but Do you think that more established therapists or business owners have that same mindset that you do, that they want to educate the people that are starting out or haven't been a therapist for long? Or is it kind of one-sided?
So you're asking, do other people like teaching other counselors?
Yes. Yeah.
Man, that's a tricky one. Because I'll be generalizing if I say no or yes. I would just say I've heard from a lot of people that they have bad experiences at their first job, or they have a bad experience at a private practice. And it depends on, what route you go. Some people come out of school and they go straight to what we call the Department of Mental Health, which is a state organization. And you do learn a lot there because there's a lot of training with that they
Yeah.
actually give you. And that's a plus. The bad part that I hear is outside of the training, you don't get training, if that makes sense. If you're in a confined set, you get the training there, but outside of that, you don't. And again, I'm not there, so I can't say yay or nay. And I've met some people who've worked there who I feel are really good individuals. But then you have private practices who are private practice. They're a business. And so they have to have income coming in
Yeah.
order to maintain as a business. And sometimes that takes away from the one-on-one training that someone have. But with me implementing this as my focus, then my focus is teaching in addition to making the money. But I'm not necessarily set on making an X amount because my number one focus would be teaching.
A lot of work. I've noticed brand new agents or younger agents, they get out of college and get their license. And I know some personally that have started working for, an agency, and they get trained about how to do the sales side of it, but they don't get trained of how to do the communicating and the people side of it. They just throw you out there and they say, good luck. Here's a list of businesses, go cold call them. And you're never going to make a sale. You're never going to make a living doing that way. You've got to have just a normal conversation with them rather than just coming across with a sales pitch. A lot of people don't get that proper training. What we love doing is, especially Aubrey, she loves being a mentor for other people, for other agents. And I'm starting to develop that mindset because I've been doing it a couple of years now. I'm starting to develop that mindset of not only wanting to educate my clients, but educate other agents as well. All right, let's talk about your podcast a little bit. So you started your own podcast on mental health a couple of years after opening your practice. Can you tell us the name of your show, a little bit what's about, and also what inspired you to create it?
So the name of the podcast is called Speaking with Gravity, with a emphasis on just simply mental health awareness. There are times where we're talking about things that are going on in the world and how it might influence us mentally. We've talked about movies. We talked about situations that have happened within society that might affect us mentally. But then we also share more in-depth information about specific diagnosis or different things that you can do when you're coping with said diagnosis. So we just kind of cover a good broad introduction into mental health and how to deal with it, what it's about, just to kind of give a greater understanding of it for those who may be thinking about therapy or adamant that they don't need therapy, but they could use some of the information that we do share to implement it in their lives. So it's what inspired me to do it. I got into, once the podcast world kicked off, I started learning a lot from different podcasts. In fact, at the time, I was studying for a test. So you have to get a license in order to be a therapist. And so I had to take a test, a national test. The first time I took the test, I did not pass. And I used the traditional studying habits, workbooks, me writing notes and just looking at them. But after that second time, I started actually listening to podcasts all the time. And the information that I was getting was so helpful, because it was using terminology that I needed to use. It was giving me cases. People were discussing things that they have done. And I felt as if I was learning even more just by listening to these podcasts. And so it inspired me to create my own. There was 3 doctors out of Columbia, actually, who started a podcast at the time. They're no longer doing it, but they started, and I started listening at them. Even reached out. I believe I reached out to them. I've reached out to a couple of people to be on that podcast, and at the time, I didn't get accepted. I was like, well, you know what? Let me just start my own.
Why not?
And I am African American, so I did want to speak to my community because we don't talk about it as much.
Mm-hmm.
So the topics are universal. I want it to be a representation of my community of these
Yeah.
general topics. And so all of that kind of played into me factoring into doing the Speaking with Gravity. And Speaking with Gravity is a play off of my actual business, which is Gravity Counseling Group. So that's how we come up with the name.
I love that. And that's not only amazing that it inspired you to do that, but give back to people in general, but your community and them to have that safe space to listen and talk about. So everything you're doing is incredible. Where can listeners tune in and connect with your podcast, whether that's on YouTube, social media, or podcast platforms?
On YouTube or social media, they can just put into the search Speaking with Gravity and we'll come up. I am on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, on TikTok. We are on YouTube very heavily. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of those things. We're on there. So if you put us in, you might have to put in the whole entire word Speaking with Gravity, because I don't have 100,000 followers, but I do have a little following going. I say a little, but it's a lot to me. One of the ways of thinking about it is if you have 250 views, imagine being in a room with 250 people.
Yeah.
That's a lot. We look
That's a
at
lot.
250 views and say, oh, that's not much. But if you were in a room with 250 people, that would be a really big deal for you. And the fact of the matter is, you are in a room with 250 people. You're just not able to see them. Yeah, I can shoot for the stars of 10,000 and 100,000, and that'll be great. But having the 200 views or the 600 views is just as good and instrumental in building a business and carrying on the message.
Yeah. When you put it that way, could you imagine being in a room with 1 million people?
Yeah, but no, I cannot imagine it. Yeah,
Right.
that would be amazing. That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it would be incredible. How has podcasting helped you grow your reach and impact compared to traditional counseling and speaking engagements?
So with podcasting, because you're doing it over and over again, we just reach our 4th episode. So by the end of this year,
Wow.
we'll get to 100. And I neglected to say, when I started the podcast, I was a host. I was the main host. I started it with myself for the first, I think, 6 episodes, maybe 8. And then I added 2 co-hosts. So it's me and 2 other persons. And then I went a couple of seasons like that. And I said, well, I just want to be behind the camera. So I changed host, and there's 3 other hosts now. I'm not a host. I just help produce it.
Oh, okay.
Although I do make appearances on certain episodes that I'm passionate about or that I like. But with that being said, over the course of time, people get to know your personality. They get to know what your beliefs are. They get to know what you connect with. I love 90s R&B. If you've watched me throughout that time, you're going to know that I love this R&B and also hip hop.
Yeah.
That statement that you gave at the beginning, I have said that from time to time. If you know how to love, you know how to live. Love is at the base of my message, right? So you learn more about people when you're seeing them constantly. And it gives a person an idea. Do I want to get therapy from that person? As opposed to just looking at my profile on Psychology Today or wherever they see me and trying to decipher from them the wording that I put up there, whether they would like to see me or not. Speaking engagements are very similar to podcasting, with the exception of they're a one-off. So usually with the speaking engagements, whoever is there, they're not hearing me time and time again. So if I bomb in that moment, it's like, never mind, I don't want to talk to him. But with podcasting, I have a chance to kind of regain my footing if I should fall by the wayside. I definitely like podcasting. It's almost like a infomercial to some degree.
Yeah.
I'm constantly, basically, I'm advertising myself. And in this instance, I'm advertising therapy as a whole,
Right.
ongoing with each episode. And I try not to just say Gravity Counseling Group or I'm a therapist. I am literally here to talk about this subject. So I'm not trying to indoctrinate somebody with my ideology or the fact that I have a business. And the fact of the matter is, if you're seeing it over and over again, you are going to connect it with me. So I'm actually, the funny thing is in my local community, they probably connect me with the podcast. They know that I'm a counselor, a therapist, but they connect me with the podcast more so than the Gravity Counseling Group
And
in the local community.
I'm sure you love that they connect first. You're creating that safe space and that opportunity for your local community, and your message and everything that you're trying to do for your communities. That's amazing that they connect with that first more than just, yes, you're a psychotherapist, you own your own counseling group. So therapy can be intimidating, especially in smaller communities. Speaking of, what's worked best for you in breaking down stigma and getting people through the door?
Being front and center, not being, if I have an opportunity to do a speaking engagement, then I go and do it. And once they see me and I'm not this person in a white coat necessarily. They don't have to lay on my couch. I'm not always analyzing them, or at least they don't think I'm always analyzing them because I'm having just a regular conversation. Representation matters. When they see that I am like them, whether I'm the same color or whether I'm from a small town.
Mhm.
I grew up in a town called 96, South Carolina. So we didn't even have 100 students that I actually graduated with. So
Wow.
just being able to connect with somebody on that level, the small town atmosphere type of
Yeah.
deal makes therapy less intimidating. Even if they don't come with me per se, they will be more willing to reach out and see if I could refer them to somebody. I have quite literally had somebody say, hey, I can't go to you because I'm not comfortable with coming to you, or I'm not willing to drive to come see you, but do you think you can help set me up with someone? And usually I can't. That's where the money side of it isn't a big deal for me. I really
Mhm.
genuinely want you to get the help that you deserve. And so it makes it less intimidating when I'm actually front and center and out in front of people talking to them about it and making it in a conversational manner. Talking about it like I would talk about it. Who's my top five, or who's the greatest of all time when it comes down to quarterbacks. I
Right.
can talk in that way and also talk about mental health in the same exact way. So that helps break down the stigma and get people in the door because I'm so conversational.
And coming back to earlier, it makes a client or somebody you're helping, they gain your trust more, and they also know that at the end of the day, you're a human being, I'm a human being, our clients are human beings, and so not only do we like to just have a normal conversation with them, yes, we're in a profession, but at the end of the day, we're here to help people. We're here to normalize a stigma of, for me, that you automatically think I'm just going to come at you with a salesy approach. So we both love having just normal conversations with people. And at the end of the day, we're two human beings who, not only I'm there to help you, but you're there to help me. And you're right. Sometimes you're not able to help that person individually, but we're going to do everything in our power to get you the help that you need, because that's all that matters at the end of the day, is that you get the help that you need. So whether it's me helping you out individually or finding somebody that can do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. From your perspective, what does true trust between counselor and client look like?
The consistency, compassion. When we're talking competence, continuing education, I'm constantly learning and I want to be able to give whoever's sitting across from me, standing across from me, whoever I'm conversation, I want to be able to give you something. and not the same old thing. We know breathing techniques. I want to be able to give you that, but I also want to be able to give you maybe some insight into brain chemistry, brain spotting. I don't know it all. The goal is for me to continue to learn to see how what I learn, if it can be helpful to you. The integrity piece, like I said, like we was just talking about, I can't help everyone. So it might be that, hey, you come in to see me, you're comfortable with me, but there's a certain issue that I know that I can't help you with. Let me refer you out, or let me give you someone who's better than me in this regard. Yes, I have done that.
Yeah.
Consistency, showing up, not canceling my appointments all the time. There are times when life happens and I do have to cancel appointments. But if you have 10 appointments with me, I shouldn't be rescheduling with you half of those times.
Yeah.
When speaking engagements, because you can
Yeah.
see that I genuinely care. And then, of course, with my one-on-one interaction with you. So competency, integrity, consistency, compassion, those are the 4 pillars of trust when it comes down to a relationship.
Absolutely. Like you were saying with doing podcasting, it is like me and you are just sitting down somewhere face to face, having a conversation about mental health. And I can tell from the first time that we spoke, and especially now, how passionate you are about mental health and the message that you are trying to get out there more to your community, to the listeners. You know, you just love helping people at the end of the day and educating people and being there for people. And it's not about just you and having a business and wanting to be successful. It's more than that. It's giving back to the people. You just finished writing a book. What message were you most passionate about putting into writing?
The book that I just wrote, I don't plan on it being my last. It's my first book.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I want to continue to do it. I self-published this one. If I have to self-publish all of them, I will. But very much like podcasting and anything else that I've done, if I have the thought, if I have the idea, let me just start. Let me go with it and let me figure it out along the way. The message that I wanted in this one, I wanted to talk to men in particular. That's where I wanted to start with. My background is dealing with men, also with anger, do couples counseling, and also do parenting. I'm going to have books in each one of those.
That's incredible.
That's my goal. But I wanted to start off with men first and just share with them some of the things that I've learned from personal experience, but also some things that I've learned. I was a Alfred Adler fellow in a fellows program cohort, and I completed it over the course of 2 years, I think it was. And so I learned a lot from that, and I apply a lot of those Adlerian principles within that book, which it discussed how our experiences influences us. It talks about community and how we fit within community as well. So I felt like a self-awareness, talked about self-awareness, connection, how important connection is. I felt like all of those things was important for me getting the best out of my life to this point. And so I just wanted to share that in the book. It's not all about me. It's not about me particularly. It's just sharing some of those Adlerian principles. And the title of the book it's called Undrafted in Purpose, because a lot of times with boys, we're pushed towards sports.
I like that.
Excel in sports. Well, if you don't make it to the NBA, the NFL, if you don't make it to the college level and playing sports, now what? You know, you still have a life, right? And how do I establish my role within the world undrafted? So that's where we come from. That's the perspective we come from in writing that book.
That's a perfect name for it. And it's like the military. Let's say I was undrafted per se. What would I be doing with my life? And it just gives you an incredible insight on maybe a kind of like a guide of what you can do
Exactly.
if you're not in a professional sport or in college or anything like that. So that's incredible, man.
Yeah, that was the exact thought that I had behind putting that
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
Absolutely. Looking back at your journey from Greenwood to now, what do you hope your kids and community see as your legacy?
I think there was, and I don't know where he got it from. It was a rap lyric that says, "I came, I saw, I conquered."
Yeah.
That would be a legacy to some degree of mine. Look, If you have an idea, or if you have a thought, if you have something that you want to do it to the best of your ability. And wherever it gets you, it gets you. That is your legacy. Whether this book sells 1,000,000 copies or just 50 copies, mine see my children after me, they know that they can write a book. My dad wrote a book. I can write a book. And if they sell 51 copies, then they sold more than that.
Yeah.
And they put it out there to 51 people, right? Who may
Right.
be influenced by it, right? Of course, I'm not trying to just sell 50. We're going to sell a couple of thousand there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my hope is that my kids see that when I have an ideal, I don't just sit by the side and say I have an idea. I don't just complain about it. I don't just talk about it. You say it and then you do it, and then you live in the action. Whatever that action ended up taking you, you live in it.
Yeah.
No regrets, so to speak.
Yeah. Absolutely no regrets, and pretty much gives them the courage. If I can do anything that I put my mind to, then so can you. And no matter what the result is, you did the dang thing. It wasn't just a thought at the end of the day or something on paper, like you said. You actually put things in motion, and that'll inspire your children that they can do anything that they want to as well, or what inspires them. All right, Kervin. So for our listeners who want to stay connected, where can they find you and Gravity Counseling Group on social media?
So on Gravity Counseling Group, the business is mostly on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube as well. And on there, we try to 2 to 3 times a week, we try to share just some little tidbits that you can live by. So if you want to brighten up or change the algorithms in your feed, you can just connect with us. Like I said, we give a little knowledge here and there of different things that you can do, important reminders, just sharing stuff that would brighten up your day, so to speak. So you can find us again on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube under Gravity Counseling Group. Of course, if you want to listen to the podcast, you want to tap into Speaking with Gravity on all platforms and social media. And if you want to see me and my family, you just put in my name. My name is a little different. So as you put in my name, it's going to be very few people that come up outside of me. Just put in Kervin Searles. I'm public on all my profiles. I'm not going to say I'm necessarily going to add you as a friend on Facebook because we have a lot of bots out there. But if you really wanted to find me, you could. I could be found on all platforms.
Awesome. Well, good stuff. Thank you so much, Kervin. I had a blast talking to you the last hour about mental health and learning more about you and your vision, your background, and your own personal message that you want to get across to our listeners. So, like we said earlier, that they can resonate with something, they can take something, because at the end of the day, we're all each other's support system. We all got each other's backs, and it needs to be more that way because you're never alone at the end of the day. There's always help out there for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, a huge thank you to Kervin Searles, CEO of Gravity Counseling Group, for sharing his journey and insights on building trust, creating safe spaces, and mentoring the next generation of counselors. Thanks to listening to White Coat Conversations, part of the Real Business Lifetime Lessons podcast, hosted by Lifetime Insurance Agency, LLC. Be sure to subscribe so you'll catch more inspiring stories from healthcare and wellness leaders across the Carolinas. And if you're a Carolina resident or needs assistance with health, life, or Medicare insurance, please reach out. Our team would love to help support you. Have a great week.